Hi, I'm Tom and welcome to Vlogmas 2025. Today I've got a couple of really cool trains that I want to show you, and these were only available in 1978. There's a lot of chaos around these. I've got both of them, so I'm going to do both of them in one video instead of doing a separate video for each, and likewise I'm going to sell them together as a package. I think they belong together. In 1978, Lionel released this Workin on the Railroad train set. And there were two versions. You've got the Timberline one here, and you've got the Logging Empire one here. And the only real difference is that you've got a couple extra cars in this one and another operating accessory like the barrel loader. So you got the log loader here, but this one has the barrel loader and the log loader. And there's also some more track. This one came with a figure 8, whereas this one just had a standard oval. These were DC operated, and the controller for these was basically a rheostat that you would see on a slot car track. And you can see that this is brand new in the box. We're not going to do too much with it as far as taking it apart and putting it together, but I will bring you over here and show you all the parts and pieces. And I'll show you why I still think this was a pretty good set, even though people at the time in 1978 were like, what the heck is this piece of crap? Why did you cheapen yourself and make this train set? Stick around for a few minutes and we're going to go over these two Lionel Workin on the Railroad sets from 1978. Hopefully you've been following along with the Vlogmas. We started a couple weeks ago, or a little bit over a week ago, right before Thanksgiving, and I'm going to continue on until at least January 2nd. I'll probably run out of steam around then and take a break, but if you're just joining in with us, I've got a lot more to go, and go back and check the other videos that I made. So these came out for 1978, and they probably should be in the Guinness Book of World Records for the least amount of metal ever put in an O-gauge train set. So they were kind of akin to the cheaper Marx train sets, but they were Lionel's. And you can see they came with the catalog and the engineer's manual. So on the back you've got all the different things you could have got. Here's your warranty guide you could have sent in. Shows you how to assemble the buildings. And you can see how it's all packaged up nice and pretty. And I hate to take it out because I want to sell it as new open box. So every one of the cars that came with these was basically this plastic flat car, and you can see there's no couplers on it, there's no decals on it, there's nothing, and you can see that the trucks are cast into the side of this. So what they did is they had one set of wheels that would snap into the middle, and it looked okay, unless you were going on a curve, then it looked a little cheap. But every one of the cars for these train sets starts out as a flat car. Here's the box, and this is how you would have gotten it. You can see there's some people tacked in here. It looks like you got maybe a railroad cop with a gun. He's got looks like a shotgun. You got another guy, looks like an outlaw with a pistol, guy with a lantern, and another guy with a gun. So interesting, they came like that. So the transformers on these were actually in the plug, and that's kind of the grandfather of a lot of the stuff you're seeing these days. Before that, the transformer was built into the power pack with a controller, but this is when it started being kind of a separate entity. You can see I got the cars down in here, flat cars. Here's your controller. One of your buildings, this looks like the log loader. So you assemble this. This is still sealed in the original plastic bag. And this was not available as a separate kit, so you couldn't buy these building kits separately. And it's too bad because these would have been, good little accessories that you could have bought, at a pretty decent price. I personally think I would paint them if I was going to use them. Here's your these are the brackets that go at the end of your tipple car or your log dump car. Here's the dump itself. You'd have these ends, and then this would be sitting in there. This crane is basically the crane from the Trains and Truckin' set. That too mounts on one of the cars. You can see there's a punch out. Every one of these is the same. You just don't punch out all of them. You just punch out the one you need for the crane. All of your couplers, they're all plastic knuckle couplers, and they are not operating. They are closed, so you would need to pick the car up and set it down to make it work. And the way these go in is you come in through the bottom and then you snap it into the hole there, and then your coupler is attached. And the couplers do obviously move. You've got brand new track in here. It's still really shiny, nice looking track. Up under here is your locomotive and your tender. And this locomotive, it's I'm going to weigh it, and I'm probably crazy with me weighing stuff, but I'm going to weigh it for you because I want you to see how light this is. This is basically the Rock Island locomotive, except there's, instead of a bell, there's a reverse switch here, and there's really no metal in this other than the pickups. There's a brass or a bronze gear in here, part of the can motor, and a couple other things, some screws, but it doesn't weigh very much. And at this point in time, Lionel wasn't using the pull mores. They were big on traction tires, so you can see it's got traction tires on it. And these are easy to replace. You can buy them, so not really a big deal to get those. This was not a smoking unit. Tender itself is similar to the flat cars. It's got its base. You'd snap that in, put your one wheel in. There's at least one, maybe two bags of wheels. They're plastic, not metal wheels. Now clearly this locomotive wasn't going to pull very much. In fact, this is ridiculously light. It's so light, even, the Black River Freight locomotive is heavier. And that one doesn't want to pull much. But you can see the pickups here. They're like spring loaded here. So you got your third rail here, and then these pickups. So instead of having metal wheels doing the picking up, like most of the Lionels, these are plastic wheels with little sprung pickups. Crazy, this thing weighs less than 10 ounces, so it's not even a pound. But you can see the pickups. If I were to put this on a piece of track for you, you can see how the pickups rub. And it actually detracts from the amount of traction you get. Detracts from the traction on the track, because that spring is actually picking the locomotive up a little bit. So you can see you can see those kind of collapse and compress as I set the train on the track. These slack cars, were ridiculously light. Not even 2 ounces. Figure maybe 4 or 5 ounces each, which is good because, the locomotive only weighs 10. Taking a look at the Logging Empire one, here's our log loader. The way this was that logs were actually two pieces that would snap together. And this whole kit, I'm told, is pretty reliable as far as staying together once you build it. I think, painting that, you probably would have a pretty decent little building kit. And this was all about play value. Play value was the slogan back then. And what they didn't figure on was that people were buying Lionels because they wanted the Lionel quality. They wanted the big heavy trains. This was kind of built to compete with the HO train sets, so the price point was pretty low, and people, they just balked at it because if they wanted a cheap train set, they would have bought an HO one. And Lionel did have some HO sets. So this thread is for the crane, your transformer, that's more people. All these flat cars, that would be converted, like your box car here. The way this went was you just snapped it on like that. It didn't even have slight operating doors. The doors were molded into the side, and then you put your decals on, whatever you wanted this to be. Penn Central, I think, was the one that's supposed to go on this one. And then you've got the controller decal that goes on there. This here is your barrel loader. You can see there's the guy, and pretty decent kit. It's got all the barrels in it. Bag here has your crane. Again, that's from the Trains and Truckin' set. And your work caboose. Basically, you take one of these flat cars and you put the work caboose. And that work caboose looks pretty much the same as every work caboose that Lionel had. The DT&I set had the work caboose like that on a flat car, but it wasn't, a flat car like this. You've got a flat car with a fence on it. It's really cool to see all these things as they were in 1978. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a little circle and put the locomotive on. I want you to see the train run. I'm not going to build any of the cars because, I want to sell this as new open box. And the caveat is I opened it up just to show you, and with a link to the video. So I'll be right back. Overall, I think this is a great collector's set. I'm not sure how much fun it would actually be to run it because it's kind of jerky with the controllers. Everything feels really cheap, but if you're a Lionel collector and you're looking to collect something that was kind of interesting, I don't want to say rare, but it's definitely not what you'd expect from mainline Lionel trains, then this is a good set to have. Again, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's really interesting. What they were doing was trying to make it for play value. They were building this set aimed at kids to compete with the cheaper HO scale trains coming out of China and Hong Kong, and this is what they came out with. And Lionel did have HO sets, but they never really caught on, and these cheap sets like this really didn't either, so Lionel discontinued it after 1 year. Hope you enjoyed the video. I've got more coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.